Welcome to Gemara Academy. In this class we will learn Tosfos Dibur Maschel, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri Omar, Shneim Chulu. Let's begin by looking at the flowchart of the Gemara so we could see what Tosfos is coming to explain. So here in the Gemara we presented the Mishnah with a machlekes between the Rabbanon and Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. The machlekes is in a case where there was a cup that had in it wine that was truma, and on top of it was floating oil that was truma, and the tvul yem touched the oil. The Rabbanon say that only the oil is puzzle, and Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri says the oil and the wine is puzzle, because the Rabbanon look at the oil as separate from the wine, therefore only the oil became puzzle, and Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri looks at the oil and the wine as one entity that's resting in the cup, and therefore if the oil is puzzle, the wine is also puzzle. So let's see the general outline of Tosfos. We presented the machlekes that the Rabbanon said only the oil is puzzle, and Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri said that the oil and the wine is puzzle. So Tosfos is going to prove from here that we could see that oil is considered a mashke when it comes to the dinim of tumah. What we're going to get out of Tosfos, and Tosfos also says it, but it's not his main focus, is we'll understand why it is that the Mishnah refers to a case of a tvul yem who touched the oil. Why do we specify a tvul yem and we didn't speak about any sheni l'tumah? Because a tvul yem is one of the people who's considered a sheni l'tumah. So the question could be asked, why does the Mishnah specify a tvul yem and doesn't just speak about anybody that's a sheni l'tumah? As a general category, if a sheni l'tumah touched the oil. So let's see the Tosfos now in the flowchart form. We presented the machlekes that the Rabbanon say that only the oil is puzzle, and Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri says the oil and the wine is puzzle. So Tosfos says, and it's an arrow pointing downwards because he's using some information to come to a conclusion. From this, that the case is about a tvul yem and not any sheni l'tumah. From this, that the Mishnah spoke specifically about a tvul yem and not the general category of sheni l'tumah. We could come to a conclusion, and it's in green because it's an understanding that we have as a result. It seems to show that oil is considered a mashke, a liquid, that when it comes to the halachas of tumah, we look at oil as a mashke. How do we see that from here? So now we have the proof. Because any other sheni l'tumah would make a mashke a rishon l'tumah. Let's compare and look at it if we say that oil is a mashke, and if we would say that it's not a mashke. And we'll see that only if we say that oil is a mashke will it make sense to us that the Mishnah spoke specifically about a tvul yem and not about any sheni l'tumah. However, if oil is not a mashke, it won't be understood why the Mishnah specifically speaks about a tvul yem and not a sheni l'tumah. And therefore we could conclude that oil is considered a mashke when it comes to the halachas of tumah. So if oil is a mashke, it makes sense why we refer it specifically to a tvul yem. Because if a sheni l'tumah touches a mashke, the din is that that mashke becomes a rishon l'tumah and will be able to make tamei the next mashke that it's touching. So therefore, we wouldn't be able to make the machlekes in the case that a sheni l'tumah touched the oil, because then everybody would agree that not only is the oil puzzle, but also the wine is puzzle. Since once the oil was touched by the sheni l'tumah, it becomes a rishon l'tumah with the ability to make tamei the wine that's beneath it. So they would argue on the reason why it's tamei. The Rabbanon would say because the oil touched the wine and it made it tamei, and Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri would say because they're one entity. But the halacha would be the same, that they're both puzzle. However, if a tvul yem touched the oil, then it's different, because a tvul yem is the exception in the category of sheni l'tumah. It's the only one that if it touches a mashke, it does not become a rishon l'tumah. And therefore, when the tvul yem touched the oil, even though the oil is a mashke, the Rabbanon are going to hold, since the oil is separate from the wine, therefore the oil is puzzle and the wine is not. Since when a tvul yem touches a mashke, it does not become a rishon l'tumah, and therefore it doesn't have the ability to make tamei the next liquid. However, let's see if oil is not considered a mashke, then we have a question, why did it refer specifically to a tvul yem? It could have referred to any sheni l'tumah. Since if it's not a mashke, it will not become a rishon l'tumah even when a sheni touches it, and they would still have their argument. The Rabbanon would say that when the sheni l'tumah touched the oil, only the oil is tamei. Since the oil is not a mashke, it doesn't contaminate, it doesn't make puzzle also the wine. And Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri would say that although it doesn't have the power to be metamei another thing, but we don't look at them as separate entities. We say it's one entity of liquid, and therefore they're both puzzle. So from here we could prove, says Tosfos, that oil is considered a mashke, because only then will it make sense to us that the Mishnah referred to a tvul yem and not any sheni l'tumah. And now just the end of Tosfos, a couple more points in this regard. Tosfos says this is also proven in the first parak of Pesachim, that oil is considered a mashke. And another point, and the question from Anachas, Tosfos says I answered it in Pesachim. So Tosfos is just pointing out that there's a Gemara in Pesachim that we also prove from there that oil is considered a mashke. And the other thing Tosfos is saying, that the question that is found from Menachos on saying that oil is a mashke, Tosfos is saying that he answered it already in Masechtas Pesachim. So to summarize the Tosfos came to show that from here we could see and we could prove that oil is considered a mashke, and what we got out of it is, and Tosfos also speaks about it, but our understanding that comes out of it is, now we understand why the Mishnah referred specifically to a Tvul Yom and not just any Sheni L'Tumah.